Have you ever heard of Glenn Ford? It was a warm Saturday morning on November 5th of 1983 in Shreveport, Louisiana. It was just past 10 in the morning when a local doctor stopped by his friend's jewelry store and noticed the door was slightly cracked open. Like any friend would, he took a peek inside to make sure that everything was okay. But something wasn't right. The glass display cases were all emptied. While looking around, he stepped behind the counter to find the body of 56-year-old Isidore Roseman lying face down with a gunshot to the head. Roseman was a World War II veteran who became a well-known watch repairman and jeweler. That morning, someone had walked into his store, killed him, and robbed the place. There was no signs of forced entry and no murder weapon, just a huge mess and a dead man. The pressure to find a suspect was piling up pretty quickly, and just 2 days later, the cops made their move. Glenn Ford. He was a 33-year-old African-American male who did odd jobs helping out his neighborhood. At one point, he had even done some yard work for Roseman. He'd heard about the murder and voluntarily walked into the station with his father to answer some questions. But a woman told police she had saw Ford with jewelry that looked like it came from the shop. Upon investigating this, some pawn shop receipts actually showed that Ford had sold gold items not long after Roseman was killed. He told police they weren't his and said he was doing a favor for someone else, a man named O.B., later identified as Jake Robinson. But it didn't matter. His court-appointed lawyers had never tried a criminal case. One of them just worked in the gas industry. And the whole jury was white. The trial lasted just a few days. Witnesses were contradicting themselves and the prosecution mainly leaned on assumptions. But Glenn Ford sat there quietly, saying he was innocent. They would eventually find him guilty and sentence him to death. He would be sent to Angola prison, one of the toughest places in the country, to serve his time. But even after 30 years on death row, he kept saying the same thing. I didn't do it. And there was just one problem with this entire situation. He really didn't do it. In 2013, a confidential informant came forward, then old police notes resurfaced with details pointing to Jake Robinson, the same man Ford had named 30 years earlier. Turns out, those tips had been ignored and buried. But by the time the state admitted they got it wrong, Glenn Ford had already lost most of his life in prison. He was exonerated in 2014. After 10,000 days behind bars, he walked out a free man, and the state gave him $20 for a bus ride home. Yeah, you heard that right. When Ford tried to apply for compensation, Louisiana just said no. They claimed that he knew about the robbery, even though there was never any evidence that pointed towards him to begin with. It was just another excuse. Glenn Ford died a free man. Unfortunately, it was just over a year after he was exonerated. He passed away from stage 4 lung cancer that no one even knew he had, and he never got the justice that he deserved. If you have any cases you'd like to see covered, please leave them down below and make sure to hit that follow button so you can be notified when I post them.